Today we're going to take a look at the interactive SAO for the DEF CON 32 badge. You can find more instructions and a demo video, which you're watching right now, here at this GitHub link. You can also scan the QR code to get there faster. So let's take a look at what's inside the bag. All right, so we have the SAO, which we'll get to in a second. We also have a Hacker Summer Camp sticker, a Make It Hackin' sticker, a DC32 Engage sticker, some googly eyes, and a DC32 Flipboard sticker. That's for the Flipboard that I made for the Flipper Zero. All right, so we're gonna put away the stickers and stuff and take a look at the SAO. Okay, so the interactive SAO for the DEF CON 32 badge, it could really be for any badge, but this one was specifically made for the DEF CON 32 badge in mind. Was made because we don't really know what the badge is yet for DEF CON 32, but we know they have an SAO port and that they're sending all of the signals out to the SAO port on the badge. So this SAO is meant to interact with it, whether the SAO is going to be an input or an output and things like that. So what I have right here is sort of like a badge simulator. It's basically just an Arduino with a shield on it. But you'll see here, this is our SAO port for the badge. Notice that the badge will have a notch on the top and that the SAO will have a notch on the top as well. And that's how they get inserted, not like this, but like this. So this is just going to be simulating some input and output, and we'll show you how to use the interactive badge. So there are basically two things that we're going to be taking a look at. So if you look at the pinout of the SAO, this is what it's like if you're looking at it from the perspective of the badge. So this would be the pinout. It wouldn't be as if you're looking at it from here, but if you're looking at it from here. So the top left pin is going to be your 3.3 volts. The bottom pin on the left is going to be your ground. The middle top is your I2C SDA line. That's a communication protocol. The middle bottom is the I2C clock line. And then the top right and the top right is your user 1 line, and the bottom right is your user 2 line. Now the user 1 and user 2 lines, you can kind of see some more information down here. They're connected to GPIO 28 and 29 on the DEF CON badge according to DEF CON's social media. So this SAO breaks out the user 1 and user 2 lines. It doesn't really interact with the I2C lines just because I2C is a communication protocol. You could have sensors or different things interacting with I2C that we just can't really test for. But I did break out all of those pins here. So if you want to solder on some connectors or do some sort of debugging, you can use those things here. They're on the front too. But all of the pins on the SAO are brought up here. So if you wanted to add an I2C device, you can solder it here or do whatever. So user 1 and user 2 we know that they're going to be GPIOs. So that means general purpose input output. So we brought user 1 on this side and user 2 on this side. Now we don't know what type of input or output that the badge is looking for. So we have different options for input and output here. For output, we've brought here some LED types. So for output, we have a NeoPixel, which is a WS2812 RGB LED, which we'll look at in a minute. We also have a discrete LED. So this one can change different colors. This one's just on or off, basically. So you can select which one you want to do. So the GPIO function, if you want the button, you switch it to the left. If you want to do LED, you switch it to the right. LED is output, button is input. And then for the button, which we'll also look at when we get to it, this is the button signal. So do you want to send a low value when you press the button, or do you want to send a high value when you press the button? If you want it low, you switch that left. If you want it high, you do it like that. And we'll take a look at that when we get to it. All right, so what we're going to do first is we're going to take a look at the LED type. So this is again my badge simulator, and I'm going to plug it in here, turn it on. Okay, so the way you insert the SAO is going to be like that, and just kind of push it down. We do have a power LED right there that's just run off the 3 volts, just so you can see if you have it, powered on or not. All right, so I just have like a little menu that I'm going to be going through and testing each thing. This is basically just a test. The actual DEF CON badge, if it has, some interactivity, it's going to be, more involved than what we're looking at here. And today we're just going to be looking at the user 1 pin, although the user 2 has the same functionality, but we're just going to be taking a look at user 1. Okay, so it says interactive demo. So we're going to be testing output first. Please slide user 1 switch to LED, which I did. And then I'm going to press this button. Okay, and then we're going to look at the WS2812 thing first. Okay, so that's good. And then I have this switch here to switch the different types of output. Again, you won't have to do any of this. This would be on the badge. Okay, next. All right, so we can see here that we have our LED going from the badge to the SAO. It's kind of hard to see with the bright light that I have on here, but let me just reset it to make it a little more easier to see. So there's a NeoPixel on the badge and there's a NeoPixel on the SAO. And so one of the possibilities is that there will be NeoPixels on the badge, and there's a standard where you can send a signal from the last NeoPixel to the first one on the SAO. So that's what this does. So this may or may not be implemented on the DEF CON badge, but it's one of the things that's commonly implemented, so we have that there. So I'm going to just go through this again, and you can see that it's changing along with the NeoPixel on the badge. Okay, so that's the demonstration of the NeoPixel or WS2812. All right, now we're going to take a look at the discrete one. So it may not be a NeoPixel, it may just be a high or low value that's sent out of the user 1 pin. And if it's a high or low value, that will either turn on or off this LED right here. So this discrete LED will either be on if the high signal is brought through that port, or it'll be off if there's a low signal. So we switched it to discrete. We're going to switch this to the right. Again, this is only on the badge, and then we're going to go like that. So this is just simulating a signal sent from the badge to the SAO, and it just turned that on and off 5 times. So that is the LED functionality of the DEF CON 32 interactive SAO. And now we're going to be taking a look at the button input. All right, so now we're going to take a look at the button functionality of the interactive SAO for the DEF CON 32 badge. All right, so on this demo, we're going to slide the user 1 switch to button. So that's, we want to input data into the badge from the SAO, and we'll hit next. Okay, switch signal type to low. Okay, so that's already there. And we're going to start our demo. So right now, the button demo, it's sending a signal from this button to this badge simulator, and it's giving us a low value. So that's the default option, whichever one you have it switched to, that's the default value that's being sent to the badge. Now, if we press this button, look what happens. It changes to high, okay? So we're pressing the button and we're getting a high signal on the badge. There are basically 2 different kinds of ways you can send a digital signal from a button to like a badge. And it's when you press the button, do you want it to be a high or low signal? And when it's off, do you want it to be high or low? Well, we don't know what the badge is yet, so we have 2 options here. It can either be default low, and when you press it, it turns high, or if you switch this to high now the default is high, and when you press it, it's low. Okay, this is usually the way it's going to be. Most buttons are, when you press it, it's a low value, and when you don't press it, it's a high value. That's usually done with a pull-up resistor on the badge. So yeah, if you want to send a low signal, you would do it that way. So we don't really know what the badge is again yet, but you know, this kind of gives you all the different options for output and input, you know. So again, just a overview for if you want to have the SAO port be an input, you have two options. Do you want the default signal to be low or high? And then whatever the opposite of that is when you press the button. And then for output, it can either be this RGB LED or this discrete LED, which basically turns on or off. It's the same for both sides, so each side is independent. You would control those separately. The standard default for the user one would be a NeoPixel, but it doesn't have to be. It could be just on and off sort of thing, or it could be an input. We really don't know. So hopefully this tutorial helped you, and if you have any questions, you know, you can comment below, and maybe we'll start a Reddit thread or something like that to discuss anything like that. So hope you have a good time at DEF CON, and see you at summer camp.